Kristaps Porzingis has become one of the NBA's most elite scorers in just his third year in the league. He's averaging 24.7 points while shooting 45% from the floor, 38% from 3, and 85% from the free throw line. He can hit threes, post up, hit fadeaways, and finish above the rim at a staggering 7 feet and 3 inches tall. However, there is one other player in the NBA who's been able to halt Porzingis in his tracks on a consistent basis like no other player has. This video is going to be the story of Kristaps Porzingis' most unlikely kryptonite. On the night of January 12, 2016, Porzingis was scoring at will against the Boston Celtics to the tune of 20 points in the first half of the game, and was leading the beleaguered Knicks team to a victory. In a desperate attempt to slow down the 7'3" Porzingis, Celtics coach Brad Stevens put Marcus Smart, a 6'4" guard, on Porzingis. Porzingis ended the game with 26 points, scoring just 6 in the second half. Although the Knicks walked away with a close 6-point victory, Porzingis knew at that moment that his future games against the Boston Celtics had taken a turn for the worse. Let's take a little statistical dive to see what kind of impact Marcus Smart is having when guarding Porzingis, inspired by one of my favorite YouTubers, John Boyce. Here's KP's point production throughout his entire career following that game on January 12th against Boston. Here's his career high of 40 points against the Pacers in November. Excluding games against Boston, his average points per game production over this 124 game span has been 18.98. In the 7 games he's played against Boston since Marcus Smart became their primary defender against him, he's averaged just 12.57 points. That's an average drop-off of 6.41 points per game, or 33.8% of his point scoring production. Now that's a serious decrease for one of the league's top scorers. Of course, points aren't the only measure of how effective a defender Smart has been on Porzingis. Let's take a look at KP's field goal percentage in these games. Against the rest of the league, Porzingis averaged 44.0%. Against Smart, he averaged just 35.7%. To put that in perspective, that means he went from Brian Anderson type efficiency from the field to Caleb Swanigan or Ante Zizic type efficiency. Not so good. This is clearly some next level defense from Smart. While all these stats have been interesting, it still doesn't put into perspective the level to which Smart has controlled Porzingis so far this season. Looking at Porzingis' games from the 17-18 season, his 2 games versus Boston stand out. In the 3 games where he's scored the least points so far this season, 2 of them have been in the 2 games that he's played against Boston. The other, a 4-point performance against Miami, came in a game where he played just 2.5 minutes before leaving the game with an ankle injury. That means that Marcus Smart has forced Porzingis into his 2 worst games this season both times they've met, even in a season where Porzingis is dominating the rest of the league. The most remarkable game for me was their most recent matchup in New York on December 21st. Porzingis was limited to 1 point on 0 for 11 shooting. He played just 23 minutes, not because he got injured or was tired, but because the Knicks coach Jeff Hornacek had to take him out of the game in the face of Smart's smothering defense. Porzingis was actually hurting the team by trying to score on Smart, who's a full 11 inches shorter than him. This is truly remarkable. Porzingis even said that he's never faced such intense coverage from a guy so much shorter than him. Recalling their first matchup, Kristaps said, "It was something that I had never experienced before. Smart was getting into my knees, playing hard defense, and I wasn't really ready for it." This reminds me of famous mismatched opponents that we've seen in the past, especially Shaq versus Rodman. Rodman did something similar for 1 half and an overtime in the 1997 NBA regular season, holding a dominant Shaq to 0 points in that period of the game versus the Bulls. However, while this was a mismatch between Shaq, standing at 7'1", and Rodman standing at 6'7", the difference between the two in terms of height was just 6 inches, as opposed to the 11-inch difference between KP and Smart. In addition, Rodman couldn't contain Shaq during their matchup in the 1996 NBA Finals. Despite the fact that the Bulls swept that series 4-0, Shaq put up remarkable numbers. He averaged 27 points and 11.8 rebounds while shooting an incredible 64% from the field. If we compare that to KP's numbers versus Smart over 7 games, say like a 7-game playoff series, and the numbers are far less impressive at 12.6 points on 35.7% shooting. So how exactly does Smart do it? Well, the answer is multifaceted. Smart plays Porzingis physically when he gets anywhere near his favorite spots on the floor. This means that he's excellent at denying KP deep post positioning. He also regularly gets away with fouling Porzingis, in my opinion, because referees are less likely to call fouls on him for being physical because he's a foot shorter. This can explain why Porzingis takes worse shots when being defended by Smart. But remember that we've seen Porzingis make tough shots over 7-footers with a hand in his face. So why can't Porzingis just fade away from Smart and nail his Dirk-like post fade? I'm not so sure what the answer to this is, but it's probably a combination of two things. First, he gets tired out by Smart's relentless game-long pressure. And second, there's probably a mental block that's developing now too, because people are starting to hype up his games against Smart. I think he tries to establish himself, against Smart in particular, and this can lead him to taking some bad shots. However, these are some hard stats to measure quantitatively, so we'll just have to wait and see if this unexpected trend continues throughout these two players' careers, before we can say with any certainty that Smart is a guaranteed lockdown defender of Porzingis. Finally, I'd just like to say to any subscribers who are looking for technique advice that I don't really have time to read through all the comments on YouTube, especially when the videos get a lot of views. So if you really need some guidance or you have any questions in general, then I'm more likely to respond if you follow me on Instagram and message me over there, so I see it on my phone. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.